I am a talking dog. My name is Lucy, and this is something I've never dared to tell. About the night I gave birth to 10 puppies in a stranger's old van. About how desperation can transform into a miracle in just one moment. And about why, every time I look into human eyes, my heart still trembles with hope. But to understand this story, you need to know who I used to be before I became a stray. Do you remember your childhood home? That place where everything felt safe and certain? I had that once too. I lived in a small garden where dappled sunlight danced through leaves, where children's laughter echoed off fence posts, and where a metal bowl always held fresh, cool water. I had a name back then, something simple that I can't quite remember now, but every time someone says, "Good girl," my heart still skips with familiar warmth. Those were the days when I believed the world was predictable, when I trusted that hands would always be gentle, that doors would always open to let me in, not push me out. When I carried my first pregnancy with excitement instead of fear, imagining my puppies would be born into warm hands and soft blankets. I thought I understood how life worked. You love humans, they love you back. You're loyal, they're loyal too. Simple, right? But then, the world changed. One ordinary Tuesday morning, they loaded me, along with several other pregnant dogs, into a truck. No explanation, no goodbye hugs, no last gentle pat on the head, just the sound of a metal door sliding shut, and the rumble of an engine carrying us away from everything we'd ever known. That was the day I learned that love, as I understood it, wasn't permanent. That was the day I stopped being someone's dog and became nobody's dog. What I didn't know was that this betrayal was just the beginning of a journey that would test everything I thought I knew about survival, hope, and what it really means to be rescued. Living on a beach sounds romantic when humans tell the story, doesn't it? Salt air, endless horizons, the rhythm of waves. But there's nothing romantic about being a pregnant stray dog on a stretch of cold sand and sharp rocks. There was no freedom, only hunger that gnawed at your belly like a wild animal. Only thirst that made your tongue feel like sandpaper. Only the nameless terror that came with every howling wind, every approaching footstep, every growling stomach when food was nowhere to be found. We were a pack of the forgotten. 5 pregnant mother dogs who'd been dumped like garbage and left to figure out how to survive. There was Bella, whose swollen belly made every step painful. There was Maya, who'd been someone's beloved pet just days before and still waited hopefully for a familiar car to return. There was Grace, who'd learned to dig through restaurant dumpsters with surgical precision. And there was Star, whose sad eyes held stories of abandonment that matched my own. We huddled together at night, sharing body heat and what little courage we had left. During the day, we scavenged through trash cans and begged with our eyes, hoping someone might toss us a scrap. I learned to read human faces quickly. The ones who might help, the ones who would shoo us away, and the ones who would throw rocks. My belly grew heavier each day. The puppies kicked and turned inside me, and I knew they were running out of time. I could feel my body preparing for birth. But where? On the cold sand? Between the rocks? In the rain? I watched seagulls swooping overhead and envied their wings. I watched families walking by with their well-fed, well-loved pets and tried to remember what it felt like to wear a collar. To have someone call your name with joy instead of shooing you away. The contractions started on a gray Thursday afternoon. Sharp, breath-stealing pains that told me my babies were coming whether I was ready or not. I found a small shelter between 2 large rocks, but it was dirty, cold, and offered no real protection. Star, another abandoned mother who'd become my closest companion, was experiencing the same thing. We looked at each other with eyes that said what we couldn't bark. Our babies deserve better than this. That's when we heard it. The rumble of an old engine, the crunch of tires on gravel. A van, old, dented, painted a faded blue that had seen better decades. And for reasons I still can't explain, something in my exhausted heart whispered, "Run toward it, not away." So we did. Star and I, heavy with puppies and hope, ran after that van like our lives depended on it. We didn't bark aggressively or bare our teeth. We just followed, like our hearts were pulling our legs towards something we couldn't yet name. The van stopped. When that driver's door opened, and I saw the eyes looking back at me, I realized I was about to learn the difference between being rescued and being saved. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and instantly known they were going to change your life? When that van door opened, I didn't see pity or fear or annoyance. I saw sadness. The kind of deep sadness that comes from understanding suffering because you felt it yourself. These weren't people who wanted to help us to feel good about themselves. These were people who helped because they couldn't bear not to. Later, I would learn their names were Maria and James. They'd been rescuing abandoned animals for 15 years, ever since they found their first dog dying on this very beach. They'd converted their old van into a mobile rescue unit, complete with supplies for emergency births. They drove these coastal roads every evening, looking for animals that others had given up on. Their own dogs at home were all rescues, a house full of second chances and healing hearts. They gave us food first, real food, not scraps. They let us eat slowly, without fear of it being taken away. Then they filled bowls with fresh water and watched us drink until our bellies were round and satisfied for the first time in months. But the most incredible moment came when they opened the back doors of that old van. Inside was a space that had been transformed into something magical. Soft blankets covered the floor. The walls blocked out the wind. It smelled like safety. If safety has a smell, and I believe it does. "Come on, girls," one of them said gently. "Tonight, you're going to have your babies somewhere warm." Star and I climbed into that van, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. The possibility that everything might actually be okay. That night, as the contractions intensified and my body prepared to bring 10 new lives into the world, I wasn't scared. For the first time since being abandoned, I wasn't thinking about survival. I was thinking about love. One by one, my puppies arrived. Tiny, perfect, warm bundles that mewed and squirmed and immediately began searching for milk and comfort. Star was going through the same miracle beside me, bringing 10 more precious lives into our makeshift sanctuary. 20 puppies, born not on cold sand or wet rocks, but surrounded by human kindness and protected by metal walls and soft fabric. I was exhausted, but for the first time in my life, it was the good kind of exhausted, the kind that comes after something beautiful has been accomplished. As I cleaned my babies and felt them latch on to nurse, I understood something profound. This van wasn't just shelter. It was proof that miracles don't always look like what you expect. Sometimes a miracle is just an old vehicle driven by people who refuse to look away from suffering. But this was just the beginning of a journey that would show me what home really means, and lead to a reunion that would heal wounds I didn't even know I was carrying. Recovery looks different for everyone, but for a mother dog and her 20 newborns, it looked like San Diego. The rescue organization that saved us had a facility where miracles happened every day. Clean kennels, veterinary care, volunteers who spoke to us in gentle voices and never rushed us when we were scared. They gave me a name that stuck. Lucy. I liked how it sounded when people called it. Bright and friendly, like sunshine. Star kept her name too, and we often lay in adjacent kennels, watching our babies grow from helpless little potatoes into rambunctious, tail-wagging tornadoes. The puppies were adoptable first, of course. They were young and cute, and had their whole lives ahead of them. One by one, families came to meet them. I watched through the kennel wire as potential parents knelt down and let puppies climb all over them, laughing when tiny teeth nibbled their fingers or sharp claws scratched their jeans. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. Each adoption was a celebration. My babies were getting the warm homes and loving families I dreamed of for them during those cold nights on the beach. But each adoption was also a small goodbye, a loosening of the bond that had kept us together since that miraculous night in the van. I tried not to have favorites, but there was one little guy, they called him Murphy, who looked exactly like me but with Star's gentle temperament. He was the last of my babies to be adopted, and on the day his new family came for him, he seemed to sense something important was happening. He spent extra time that morning pressed against me, as if memorizing my scent. When they put his new collar on and prepared to carry him to his forever home, he looked back at me with those bright puppy eyes, and I swear I saw understanding there. "Be good," I whispered in the language only dogs understand. "Be loved. Be happy." Eventually, my turn came too. The Rodriguez family had lost their old dog Stella the year before and were ready to love again. They had a backyard with grass and shade trees, teenagers who would throw tennis balls until their arms got tired, and a dad who talked to dogs like they were the most interesting conversationalists in the world. Home, I learned, isn't just a place. It's a feeling. It's the sound of your name being called with genuine joy. It's the confidence that comes from knowing that when you're old or sick or having a bad day, the people around you won't abandon you. For 11 months, I lived that feeling every day. But the most incredible moment was still coming. A reunion that would prove that some bonds transcend time, distance, and even the chaos of puppyhood. A year later, something extraordinary happened. The rescue organization contacted all the families who had adopted my puppies and Star's puppies, and invited us back to the beach where our story began. Not to be abandoned again, but to reunite. Can you imagine? 20 puppies, now full-grown dogs, returning to the place where they were born in an old van, accompanied by their adoptive families and the 2 mother dogs who brought them into the world during the most desperate and hopeful night of our lives. When our car pulled into the beach parking lot, I could smell them before I could see them. 20 distinct scents that were familiar and strange at the same time. Familiar because they came from my body, strange because they'd been shaped by different homes, different foods, different adventures. But the moment I stepped out of the car and my paws touched that sand again, everything came flooding back. Not the fear and hunger this time, but the hope. The night when everything changed. The feeling of being saved. The puppies, now dogs with names like Cooper and Bella and Max and Daisy, recognized me immediately. It wasn't just scent memory or instinct. It was something deeper. A soul-level connection that time and distance couldn't erase. They surrounded me with wagging tails and happy whines, nuzzling against my neck and shoulders like they had when they were nursing. Some of them had grown enormous, bigger than me now, while others stayed small and delicate. But in their eyes, I could still see traces of those helpless newborns who had snuggled against me in the van. Murphy, my lookalike, had grown into a magnificent dog with a thick coat and bright, intelligent eyes. His family told me he was a therapy dog now, visiting hospitals and nursing homes to comfort people who needed exactly what he offered: unconditional love and presence. When he saw me, He dropped into that playful bow that puppies do, his tail wagging so hard his entire back end wiggled. For a moment, he was my little baby again. Sophie, one of Star's daughters, had become a search and rescue dog, using her nose to find lost hikers in the mountains. Her handler explained how her early experience of being lost and found had given her an almost supernatural ability to locate others who needed saving. She pressed her forehead against mine in a gesture so gentle and knowing. It took my breath away. There was Jake, who'd grown massive and protective, now serving as a companion to a veteran with PTSD. There was little Luna, barely bigger than a cat, who'd learned to detect seizures for a young girl with epilepsy. Each of my babies had found not just homes, but purposes, ways to heal the world that had once seemed so cruel to us. Star's puppies were there too, creating a reunion that was part circus, part miracle, part healing ceremony. 20 dogs and their families, celebrating not just survival, but transformation. The rescue volunteers who had saved us were there, including the couple who had driven the van that night. They looked older, a little more tired, but their eyes still held that same deep compassion that had changed everything for us. "Do you remember this place, Lucy?" one of them asked, kneeling down beside me. I looked around at the beach that had once meant desperation and death, and now meant resurrection and love. I looked at my grown babies playing in the sand with their human siblings. I looked at Star, still my friend, still my partner in this incredible journey. Did I remember? How could I forget? We were once unwanted strays that nobody wanted to save. We once thought we would die alone and forgotten on cold sand under an uncaring sky. But then someone stopped their van. They saw us, really saw us, and chose not to look away. That night, 20 babies were born into the world. But something in me was born again too. Faith. Faith that not every closed door leads to abandonment. Faith that some doors, even dented old, imperfect ones, open to contain miracles. Faith that love can be found in the most unexpected places, given by the most unexpected people, at the most unexpected times. My puppies are grown now, living lives filled with tennis balls and belly rubs, morning walks and evening snuggles. They'll probably never remember being born in a van, but they carry something from that night. The knowledge that they are worthy of rescue, worthy of love, worthy of the warmest possible life. And me? I wake up every morning in my sunny kitchen, next to my water bowl that's always full, surrounded by people who chose to love me not because I was perfect, but because I needed love. Sometimes I still dream about that beach, but now it's not a nightmare. It's a reminder that miracles usually don't look like what we expect. They look like ordinary people doing extraordinary things. They look like old vans and soft blankets. They look like hands that reach out instead of turning away. If you're listening to this story and you've ever felt abandoned, forgotten, or invisible, I want you to know something. Your van is coming. Your miracle might look different than mine. It might not have 4 wheels and smell like motor oil, but it's coming. Sometimes I think about the ripple effects of that one night. 20 dogs saved, but also 20 families enriched. Children learning empathy by caring for rescue animals. Veterans finding peace through loyal companions. Hospital patients comforted by therapy dogs who understand suffering. Lost hikers found by dogs who know what it means to be rescued. It's like dropping a stone into still water. The circles just keep expanding outward, touching lives in ways we'll never fully know. Maria and James saved us, but in a way, we saved them too. They told me at the reunion that our night in the van reminded them why they do this work. that watching 20 lives come into the world safely renewed their faith in the possibility of happy endings. And when it arrives, when those doors open and someone looks at you with eyes that say, "You matter," don't hesitate. Climb in. Let yourself be rescued. Let yourself be loved. Because sometimes the most broken things become the most beautiful stories. And sometimes the most desperate nights become the most miraculous beginnings. My name is Lucy, and this is my story of how I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up for you when everything falls apart, and who chooses to stay until you're strong enough to run on the beach again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing that even stray dogs have stories worth telling. And thank you for remembering that every abandoned heart deserves a second chance at love. If this story moved you, tap like to share a little hope. At Four Paws Tales, we tell stories seen through eyes that can't speak, but understand everything. Subscribe for more stories of love, healing, and loyalty.